In the vast, fertile lands of Zululand, where the horizon stretches beyond mountains and valleys, lived a king whose legacy was celebrated far and wide. King Paluta, the mighty ruler of the Zulu kingdom, was known for his wisdom and strength. But even the strongest of kings cannot escape the pangs of disappointment that follow the absence of a male heir. Despite his best efforts, the king's numerous wives had only borne him daughters, and among them was his most cherished child, Princess Shuduza. Shuduza, the apple of her father's eye, was more than just a royal figure. Her beauty had become legendary across the lands, spoken of in hushed tones by men and women alike. With her graceful, curvaceous form, she commanded attention wherever she went. Her skin was radiant, her eyes sharp with intelligence, and her dance during the annual reed ceremony captivated the entire kingdom. But with her beauty came envy. Many of her peers were not just jealous of her looks, but of the power she unknowingly wielded with every step. Nkabai, her closest friend from childhood, had always stood by her side, though over time, envy darkened Nkabai's once loyal heart. As King Paluta grew older, the pressure to secure his legacy intensified. Though his daughters had brought him pride, the kingdom needed a man to ascend the throne, a warrior who would protect the people and maintain the Zulu strength. In a moment of desperation, the king devised a plan that would change the course of Zululand's future. He announced a great tournament, calling on the bravest warriors from every corner of the kingdom to battle for his daughter's hand in marriage. The winner would marry Shuduza, and through their union, the kingdom's next king would be chosen. The announcement of the tournament sent ripples of excitement and fear through the land. Men prepared for battle, sharpening their spears, strengthening their bodies, while women whispered anxiously about the possible outcome. But Princess Shuduza, the object of the kingdom's desire, felt trapped. Her heart was not a prize to be won by brute strength alone, and deep inside, she longed for a love based on something more than a warrior's prowess. Unknown to many, there was already one warrior whose quiet bravery had captured her attention. Ndelela, a humble warrior from a lowly background, but with a heart full of courage. Ndelela was unlike the other men who would compete for the princess's hand. While many sought the crown, Ndelela had fought battles in defense of his people with honor and humility. His feelings for Shuduza ran deep, though he never voiced them aloud, believing his low status would keep him from ever standing by her side. But the tournament presented a rare opportunity for him to prove his worth, not just as a warrior, but as a man deserving of her love. Meanwhile, Funani, a wealthy and arrogant warrior, had different intentions. For him, the princess was a means to an end, a pathway to the throne. His ambition knew no limits, and he would stop at nothing to ensure his victory, even if it meant playing dirty. Unknown to many, he had already struck a deal with Nkabai, who, blinded by jealousy and resentment towards Shuduza, was willing to betray her closest friend for the right prize. The day of the tournament arrived, and the entire kingdom gathered at the grand arena. King Paluta, seated on his regal throne, watched with both hope and trepidation. Warriors lined up, their spears glistening in the sun, muscles taut with anticipation. Among them were Ndelela and Funani, standing on opposite sides, eyeing each other with the knowledge that their paths would inevitably cross. Drums pounded rhythmically, their beats echoing through the valley, calling forth the spirits of the ancestors to witness the event. Before the battle began, the king addressed the warriors. Shuduza, dressed in the most radiant Zulu attire, stepped into the arena to also address the warriors. Her colorful beaded skirt swayed with each movement, and her ornate headpiece glistened under the sunlight. She did not speak long, but her presence alone seemed to ignite the hearts of men who stood before her. As the fight began, it was clear that this was not just a display of physical strength. Each blow, each parry was a testament to the warrior's determination. Some fell quickly, their dreams of royalty dashed on the ground, while others fought on with a hunger that burned like fire. As Ndlela fought, he began to feel the weight of his destiny pressing upon him. The battle grew fiercer, and he was thrown to the ground by a larger opponent. Just when he thought he might fail, a powerful vision overtook him. The ancestors appeared before him, their spirits clothed in ancient Zulu warrior garb, their faces lined with the wisdom of centuries. They spoke in voices that echoed like thunder, telling him that he had been chosen not just by fate, but by the spirits themselves. They warned him, however, of the betrayal waiting for him in the shadows. As he awoke from his vision, Ndlela rose with newfound strength, fending off each opponent with skill and precision. With the ancestors' blessing, he fought his way through the tournament, inching closer to the final battle against Funani. The moment had come. Funani and Ndlela stood face to face, the cheers of the crowd rising and falling around them. Funani, with his arrogant smirk, launched the first strike. His movements fast and deadly, but Ndlela, fueled by the spirits of the ancestors, fought back with unyielding strength. Their spears clashed, creating a whirlwind of dust around them. Just when it seemed like Ndlela might have the upper hand, Nkabai's betrayal was revealed. She had poisoned Ndlela's water before the fight, weakening him from the inside. As his vision blurred and his legs faltered, Funani closed in for the kill, confident in his victory. But fate had other plans. As Ndlela staggered, Shuduza could no longer stay silent. From the royal stand, she shouted for him to rise, her voice cutting through the noise of the arena. The spirits of the ancestors surged through Ndlela one final time, and with a mighty blow, he disarmed Funani, sending him sprawling to the ground and losing one of his upper limbs in the process. In the silence that followed, the crowd held its breath. King Paluta, watching from above, stood from his throne. The air was thick with anticipation as he descended into the arena. With pride in his voice, he declared Ndlela the victor, not only of the tournament, but of the princess's heart. But the king's gaze shifted to Nkabai, her betrayal known to him now, and he banished her from the kingdom forever. The kingdom rejoiced as Ndlela and Shuduza stood side by side, their love not born of duty, but of genuine affection and mutual respect. The ancestral spirits, their presence felt but unseen, blessed the union, ensuring the future of Zululand in the hands of a brave warrior and a wise princess. The golden sun began to rise over Zululand, painting the sky with shades of red and orange. The air was thick with anticipation and joy as preparations for Ndlela's coronation were underway. The brave warrior who had fought bravely for Princess Shuduza's hand was about to ascend the throne, uniting his love with his destiny to become the next Zulu King. But as the kingdom celebrated, hidden in the shadows, a dark plot was brewing, one that threatened to tear the kingdom apart. After King Paluta's passing, the kingdom mourned deeply. His death left a void in the hearts of the people, but hope blossomed with the knowledge that Ndlela, now Shuduza's husband, would continue the king's legacy. The people admired Ndlela not only for his strength, but for his integrity, humility, and connection to the ancestors. His reputation as a fearless warrior, guided by the spirits, had earned him the respect of both commoners and noblemen alike. The kingdom's elders had unanimously agreed to crown Ndlela the new king, a ceremony that would take place under the watchful eyes of the ancestors. The Zulu people were eager for the coronation, knowing that Ndlela's rule would usher in a new era of prosperity. But not everyone shared their excitement. Lurking in the shadows of the palace was Funani, the disgraced warrior who had lost the tournament for Shuduza's hand and had been humiliated before the entire kingdom. Bitter and vengeful, he had vowed to reclaim what he believed was rightfully his, the throne. Though he had lost his arm in battle, he refused to let that defeat define him. His heart was consumed with hatred for Ndlela, and he was willing to go to any lengths to stop him from becoming king. In secret, Funani formed an alliance with several corrupt council elders who, despite their outward loyalty to King Paluta, harbored their own selfish desires. They were drawn to Funani's promise of power and wealth should he take the throne. These elders had grown greedy and resentful of Ndlela's humble background, believing that a man born without noble blood had no right to rule. On the night before Ndlela's coronation, a great celebration filled the kingdom. The royal court was alight with festivities, and Shuduza danced with grace and pride, dressed in her finest Zulu reed dance attire. Her movements mesmerizing as they reflected her inner strength and joy. The kingdom rejoiced, the people singing praises to both their future king and queen. However, deep within the palace, a treacherous plan was unfolding. Funani and his group of conspirators gathered in a secret chamber, their faces shrouded in darkness. Whispers of treason filled the room as they plotted to strike that very night to overthrow Ndlela before he could ascend the throne. The plan was simple but deadly. They would assassinate Ndlela in his sleep, framing the attack as an act of vengeance by a rival clan. With the chaos that would ensue, Funani would seize control and claim the throne. But what the traitors did not know was that the ancestors were watching. That night, Ndlela dreamt once more of the ancient Zulu warriors. In his dream, they appeared in a swirl of mist and fire, warning him of the danger that lay ahead. They showed him a vision of the treasonous council and Funani's twisted face filled with malice. They spoke of betrayal, but also of hope, promising that the true path to the throne was never easy and that those who strayed from honor would face their punishment. Just as the dream began to fade, Ndlela woke with a start, his heart racing. His instincts told him something was wrong. He rose from his bed, grabbing his ancestral spear and moving silently through the palace. As he approached the royal chambers where Shuduza slept, he heard the faint sound of footsteps. Funani and his men were already inside. The traitors, cloaked in the night, moved towards the king-to-be's chamber, unaware that Ndlela had anticipated their attack. They reached the door, spears drawn, ready to strike. But just as they prepared to burst in, Ndlela leaped from the shadows, his spear gleaming in the torchlight. Treachery will not stand in Zululand. Ndlela's voice thundered through the corridors. His strength, combined with the guidance of the ancestors, gave him the upper hand. He fought off the attackers with precision and skill, his spear striking true as he felled one of the corrupt elders. The palace guards, alerted by the commotion, rushed to his aid, surrounding the remaining traitors. Funani, realizing his plot had failed, snarled in anger. He knew he could not win this fight. In a desperate move, he threw his spear at Ndlela, aiming to end the man who had taken everything from him. But Ndlela, swift as the wind, dodged the blow, and before Funani could retaliate, the guards captured him. With the traitors captured, Ndlela and Shuduza stood before the royal court. The ancestors' presence felt in every corner of the room. The surviving elders who had conspired with Funani were brought before the people, their treachery laid bare for all to see. Their punishment was swift and merciless. They were banished from the kingdom, stripped of their titles and lands, their names erased from history. It was a punishment fitting for those who dared to betray the Zulu kingdom. But Funani, filled with venom and pride, refused to submit. With a final defiant glance, he fled into the wilderness, disappearing into the thick forest that bordered the kingdom. Though he was gone, Ndlela knew that he would one day return, and that the battle for Zululand's future was not yet over. The ancestors had warned of trials yet to come, and Ndlela could feel the weight of his destiny growing heavier. At dawn, under the eyes of the ancestors and the Zulu people, Ndlela was crowned the king of Zululand. The coronation was a grand affair, with the entire kingdom gathered in the open arena. Ndlela stood tall, dressed in the Zulu King's regalia, adorned with the finest beaded garments and a majestic leopard skin draped across his shoulders. His spear, the symbol of his connection to the ancestors, shone brightly in the sunlight. Shuduza, resplendent in her royal attire, stood by his side, her beauty and grace a testament to her strength as queen. Together, they were the perfect embodiment of the future, a king and queen who would rule Zululand with honor, guided by the wisdom of the past. As the people cheered, the drums of the ancestors echoed across the land, signaling the beginning of Ndlela's reign. But even in this moment of triumph, the shadow of Funani's escape lingered. The kingdom was safe for now, but the path ahead was uncertain, and Ndlela knew that his greatest challenge was yet to come.